Hey guys, welcome to your first PowerPoint of the year for biology. This PowerPoint covers the structure of biomolecules. We've introduced the vocabulary already, and so you might have a little bit of an idea of what a biomolecule is, but this PowerPoint will explain that in more depth to you. You're going to need your notes. The title of the notes is The Structure of Biomolecules, and you're going to need something to write with so that you can fill in the notes as we go along. And I'll be stopping here and telling you which one we're on and what should be going in the blanks of the notes as we move through. All living things need energy and nutrients. Energy and nutrients. Take a look at the first blank on your notes for the structure of biomolecules. What do all living things need? Two things, energy and nutrients. Most organisms get their energy and nutrients from their food in the form of biomolecules. So take a look at the second blank on your notes. Where do living things find the nutrients they need to survive? From their food. You're going to put food in that second blank. Proteins, nucleic acids, carbohydrates, and lipids are the four main classes of biomolecules. Down here, this is where I am. That's not one on your notes, but we're going to be talking about those four classes of biomolecules in this presentation today. Three of the four classes of biomolecules are classified as polymers. These are long molecules that are made of very similar repeating monomers. Take a look at your notes. Number 3 on your notes says, what is a polymer? Here's your answer. Long molecules that are made of very similar repeating monomers. There's a word missing right here, long molecules that, T-H-A-T, that are made of very similar repeating monomers. That's what a polymer is. So we've mentioned three classes of biomolecules are polymers. Those three classes are nucleic acids, proteins, and carbohydrates. The one that is not a polymer is lipids. We'll talk about that later. Okay, so at this point, you should have 3 of the answers filled into your notes. Okay, so when we say the word polymer, we are referring to the whole molecule. Take a look at this object above. What's that object? Well, I hope you said that object is a chain. Let's hope you said that, okay? Chains are like polymers, okay? Chains are built of smaller, repeating, identical units. So if you look at this chain, right, you've got a unit here, you've got a unit here, you've got a unit here, and on and on and on as the chain goes off, right? And we're going to talk about what those are. Those are called links. So a polymer would be like the entire chain together. So take a look at your notes, number 4 on your notes. What are polymers like? Polymers are like a chain, right there. That's number 4 on your notes. Okay, and here we go. Polymers are like a chain. We just talked about that. Now we're going to talk about the pieces that make a chain. The pieces that make a chain, each individual piece, is called a monomer. Okay, there's the word, monomer. So we've got some vocabulary here that we talked about before. Okay, when we say monomer, we're referring to the individual piece that keeps repeating over and over. So what would you call the individual pieces of a chain? You'd call them links. Links are like the monomers. And before we go on, let's talk about poly, the prefix poly, and the prefix mono. Those that were on your bell ringer a couple days ago. Poly means many, and mono means one. So when we say monomer, we're talking about each individual unit. When we say polymer, we're talking about the entire molecule all together. I hope that you can understand that analogy, that the link is a monomer and the entire chain is the polymer. So take a look at number 5 on your notes. What would a monomer be like in the chain analogy? The answer to that is a link. That's number 5 on your notes. Okay, so here's a little, another type of chain, right? In this picture, what would you say is the polymer and what would be the monomers? Remember, poly means many and mono means one. Many. Mono means one. Okay? So if you take a look at those monkeys there, the polymer would be the entire chain of monkeys. But each individual monkey is the monomer. Monkeys hooked together make that chain of monkeys, which we call a polymer. There's no notes that go along with this slide. It's just an extra slide to get you to understand the idea of polymer and monomer. All right, so let's talk about carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are the first type of biomolecule that we're going to talk about today. Every time you see the word carbohydrate, it's going to be colored pink in this class. And it's a way for you to kind of remember what a carbohydrate in our notes, where to find it in your notes. And when we actually do the notes, you're going to be coloring everything kind of pink when we do the review notes. So take a look at this picture right here. And now look at your notes. You're going to see that same picture on your notes. To me, that picture looks like little dudes holding hands. Take a look right here. So you've got each one of these little units, and doesn't it kind of look like they're holding hands in between? Each one of those little units, there we are right down there, is called a simple sugar. And when the simple sugars hold hands, when they link together, we get a complex carbohydrate. So simple sugars together make a complex carbohydrate. Take a look at your notes, number 6. What are complex carbohydrates made from? Well, the answer is they're made from simple sugars. I'm going to put an S on that. Simple sugars. That's number 6 on your notes. Complex carbohydrates are made from simple sugars that are joined together. Remember, like links in a chain. Carbohydrates are also known as saccharides, and this is one of those words that you're going to see on the star. So this is star vocabulary right there. Saccharide is another word for carbohydrates or for sugar. The way that I remember it is saccharide and sugar both start with the S sound. So again, we're going to have some vocabulary here. We've got mono, di, oligo, and poly, okay? So we're going to talk about what each one of those means. Monosaccharide is one single sugar molecule. Mono means one, so there it is in the picture right there. A disaccharide is 2 sugar molecules joined together. There's our monosaccharide, right? And there's your disaccharide. A polysaccharide is many sugar molecules joined together. Remember, poly just means many, so it can be anything really more than 3 is a polysaccharide. So an oligosaccharide is kind of a funny. Oligo means not too many, but not too few either. So it just means kind of several. So remember, mono means 1, there's mono. Di means 2, poly means many, oligo means a few. So not as many as a poly and not as few as a di. So you notice that they've got 4 here. So oligo means kind of like a few. And remember that saccharide part means sugar. So take a look at your notes. Look at number 7. What is another name for carbohydrates? Another name for carbohydrates is saccharides. That's number 7 on your notes. All right, moving on to proteins. Again, just like carbohydrates will always be colored pink when you see them on the PowerPoints, proteins will always be colored blue. It's a way that we try to help you remember it with color. Okay, so proteins are made of monomers called amino acids. Amino acids are these kind of groups that you see right here. There's one circled in blue first, and this one right here, and this one right here. Each one of these is an amino acid, and when you string them together, you get a large molecule called a protein. Take a look at number 8 on your notes. What are proteins made from? Proteins are made of amino acids. Okay, that is number 8 on your notes. Go ahead and take a look at that, that diagram that's above number 8 on your notes and circle a few of those amino acids like I've done in this picture so that you can see that each one of those is kind of a unit. I want you to make sure that you pay attention, that you're making sure to circle this part each time. That part right there, that N, that N stands for the element nitrogen, and each one of your amino acids has to have an N. So if you take a look at the blue circle right here, you'll see that I included the N in that one, and then the next one over has got an N group, and the next one over has got an N group. So each time you circle the group, it's got to have one of those N's in it. The N means it is a protein, actually. The nitrogen signals to us that it's a protein. Okay, so proteins have another name, just like carbohydrates do. Proteins are also known as polypeptides. So take a look at your notes. Number 9 on your notes says, what is another name for proteins? The answer to that one is polypeptides. Now again, you've been introduced to this prefix poly. Poly again means many. So what the heck is a peptide? We haven't talked about that yet. Polypeptide means many peptides. Well, okay, let's talk about what a peptide is. This is because the bond that holds the amino acids together in a protein is called a peptide bond. So take a look again down here. Remember when I told you I was circling the amino acids? And remember, it has to include, each one has to include that nitrogen group on it. So as I'm circling it like this, right? The link that is right here in between each one of these molecules here, each one of these amino acids, that little link, that bond, that chemical bond is called a peptide bond. So a protein has many peptide bonds, so we can also call it a polypeptide. All right, moving on to nucleic acids. Again, just like carbohydrates are pink and proteins are blue, nucleic acids we do in yellow. That doesn't mean that the actual molecules are these colors. Just every time we talk about these guys in a PowerPoint, we're going to use these colors to associate. So nucleic acids will always be shown in yellow. Nucleic acids are made of nucleotides. And just like carbohydrates and just like proteins, there are repeating units, and they look like this. And there's one circled in yellow right there. Each one of those is a nucleotide, okay? So take a look at number 10 on your notes. Number 10 says, what are nucleic acids made from? Nucleic acids are made of nucleotides. So nucleic acid is the polymer, nucleotide is the monomer. All right, nucleic acids. DNA and RNA are the two main types of nucleic acids. Right here, DNA, whoops, I'm moving stuff around. Let's make sure I'm using my pen. DNA and RNA. Take a look at number 11 on your notes. What are the two primary types of nucleic acids? There they are, DNA and RNA. Now you've probably heard of DNA before. DNA is the genetic material that makes you who you are. And of course, it makes every other living thing on the planet who or what it is as well. So take a look at number 12. What key component of all cells is made of nucleic acids? The answer is genetic material. Your cell's genetic material is made of DNA and RNA. Every nucleotide has three basic parts. Now remember, the nucleotide is the monomer that makes up the polymer of a nucleic acid. By the way, we're on the back of the notes. You should be on number 13 at this point. The three basic parts of a nucleotide are a phosphate group, a sugar named deoxyribose, and one of 4 nitrogen bases. And we're going to look at this down here in the pictures. So look at number 13 on your notes. 3 things. Line 1 should say the phosphate group. Line 2 should say a sugar named deoxyribose. And line 3 should say one of 4 nitrogen bases. This is what we're talking about right here. Okay? This is the phosphate group, the green thing. Okay, this right here is the sugar, the deoxyribose sugar. And this blue part right here is the nitrogen base. I'm going to just say nitro base because I'm running out of space on my screen. Okay, now again, I want you to think about the colors. Take a look here. What color did we color the phosphate group? Colored it green. What did we color the sugar? We colored it pink. What did we color the nitrogen base? We colored it blue. Nitrogen is what makes proteins what they are. That's why we colored it blue. Of course, sugars, every time you see sugar, it's going to be in pink or in red. And the phosphate group is in green. Every time we give you a slide that has a nucleotide on it, we're going to use these same 3 colors just to help you remember the 3 parts. Phosphate group, sugar, nitrogen base. Okay, lipids are our last category of biomolecules that we're going to talk about today. Lipids are the only type of biomolecule that does not follow the monomer polymer structure. Lipids are a group of biomolecules that contain fats, cholesterols, and phospholipids. Also, waxes are in there too. So take a look at number 14 on your notes. What are some of the main types of lipid molecules? Fats, cholesterols, and phospholipids is the answer to that piece of the notes. The most commonly referred to lipids are called fats. Take a look at the picture that is there. You've got your green part right here, and then you've got 3 long chains of hydrocarbons that are blue. This is the same picture that is on your notes right above number 14 there. That right there is a fat. So on your notes, next to that molecule that's above number 14, I want you to write the word fat, F-A-T. Yep, just like that. And then the green part that I've put a rectangle around right here, on your notes, I want you to write glycerol next to the green part because the head of a fat is called a glycerol molecule. So look at your notes. Put a rectangle around the same part of that molecule that you see on the notes that's colored green here that I keep putting a red box around, and label that glycerol. There it is right there. Now there's 3 long tails that come off, and your picture looks exactly the same as this one. It's just not colored. Those 3 long chains right there are right here. Those are fatty acids. Yeah. Ha. Go ahead and laugh. Yep, fatty acids. And you're going to write fatty acids next to that on your notes as well. So the head of a fat is called a glycerol molecule, and it's got 3 tails, which we call fatty acids. Take a look at number 15 on your notes. What are fat molecules made of? Here it is. Fats are made of a glycerol molecule, that's this green part right here, attached to 3 fatty acids, and that's these 3 chains that are coming off it. Okay, got it. Moving on. All four classes of biomolecules are considered organic compounds. Now, we're not talking organic like when you go to the grocery store and you can buy organic fruits and vegetables. In science, organic means that they're based on the element carbon. This is a test question on STAR like over and over and over and over every year. They want to know, and they want, if you understand that organic in science means it contains carbon. Take a look at your notes, number 16 on your notes. Why are all four classes of biomolecules considered organic? The answer to that is right here. Because they are all based on the element carbon. You are never going to get away from this in biology. We're going to talk about organic till the end of the year. It means that it contains the element carbon. Write that down for number 16. Why are all four classes of biomolecules considered organic? Because they are based on the element carbon. Okay. So we're going to talk about some vocabulary here that you may or may not have heard before while you're in science. And you're going to hear it a lot through the fall. You don't hear it quite as much in the spring. There are two processes. When we're talking about breaking down and building up biomolecules, there are some processes that your cells do in order to break them down and build them up. So I'm right here at number 1. All of the biomolecules that we just talked about can be broken apart or digested to obtain their building blocks and the energy inside them. Okay, so take a look at number 17 on your notes. It says define digested. Digested means broken apart, right? So when you're digesting something, you're breaking it apart. So if in this particular example right here, we have part of a nucleic acid, and if we digest that nucleic acid, that's this process right here, digestion, that means we're breaking that molecule apart into its building blocks, okay? And there they are. There's each little building block. We broke it apart. Digestion means broken apart. Now, biomolecules can also be synthesized. There's that word, synthesized. Synthesized by the cells to complete certain tasks or to store energy for later use. Take a look at number 18 on your notes. Define synthesized. Synthesized means built. Yeah, I know it's not much of a definition, but that's what it means. It means to build up. Okay, so again, it's the same picture down here. Look down here. We've got each one of these individual little pieces here. And remember, we call those monomers. And since this is a nucleic acid, each one of those monomers would be called a nucleotide. And when we synthesize, that's the arrow, that's the process that's occurring. When we synthesize those and make them all come together, we get a nucleic acid. Now, the second part of each one of these vocabulary words, I kind of skipped on purpose because we need to add these to our notes. This is something that showed up on last year's STAR that wasn't in this presentation, and I had to add it. So underneath number 18 on your notes, I want you to put number 19, all right? Number 19, you're going to write this sentence right here. Chemical reactions inside cells that break down materials are called catabolic reactions. And I want you to circle the word catabolic. For number 19, write the number 19 underneath 18 and write this sentence. Chemical reactions that break down materials are called, chemical reactions inside cells that break down materials are called catabolic reactions. Catabolic reactions. So they want you to understand that catabolic reactions digest biomolecules. That was on the STAR last year. Okay, when you're done writing that, and you can remember, you can pause this at any point and come back. When you're done writing that, I want you to put underneath 19 to put number 20. And number 20 is going to be this sentence right here. Chemical reactions inside cells that build new molecules are called anabolic reactions. Okay? Chemical reactions inside cells that build new molecules are called anabolic reactions. Again, they want you to understand that anabolic reactions synthesize new biomolecules. All right, this is a blank slide for a reason. You and I are going to draw something on that bottom part of your notes where you've got some blank space there. And what we're going to be drawing is synthesis and digestion, the things that we talked about on the last slide. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is how things are broken down. Now remember, on the previous slide, we started with digestion. So I am going to draw my lovely picture. Now don't be a hater because I am not a great drawer, but you're going to get the idea. I'm drawing monomers. And my monomers are all built up to make a polymer. So I'm going to label this polymer. And you are too. So go ahead and draw that on your notes in that blank area underneath number 20. Now when we break down polymers, right, we call that digestion. I'm just going to put the word digest because digest is the root word of digestion. I'm also going to put underneath it the word catabolic because catabolic reactions digest polymers. When I digest a polymer, I break apart all of its pieces and I end up with a whole bunch of little pieces. And if you remember from our examples, I can't even draw squares right, guys. Bear with me. Each one of those little pieces is called a monomer. Okay, so make sure that you've drawn this. Make sure you have some more space because we're going to do the opposite now. So now we're going to start with our monomers. So we've got a whole bunch of the little pieces and they're floating around inside of our cell somewhere. And it depends on what we're building, what those monomers are. If we're building DNA or RNA, those are nucleotides. If we're building proteins, they're amino acids. All right, so again, we're going to label each one of those monomers. We're going to put a nice big arrow here. And we're going to put the word synthesize above it. And we're going to write anabolic. Because anabolic reactions inside our cells synthesize new polymers. And as you can guess, we're going to end up with our lovely built pyramid. Because that's what we're doing. We're synthesizing a brand new molecule, okay? And underneath that, we're going to write the word polymer because that's what we just built. All right, so digestion, catabolic reactions digest polymers into monomers. When we have individual monomers, anabolic reactions synthesize polymers. Hopefully you got it. Thanks, guys.